This is the conscious hour.
But it's also very, as you said, hopeful, because it shows that there is a generation that is starting to look at sources that are on the ground, that are witnessing what is happening and are reporting live from exactly what's, taking place in that region, like yourself. And I kind of wanted to touch on this because one of the captions in your post that I really resonated with, it said, "Journalism that speaks up in times of genocide is the moral compass of the world. Journalism is not terrorism, silencing free speech is." And I think that couldn't be more true right now, because I think it's so telling of the hypocrisy that we're seeing come out of Western reporting. I wanted to ask you, as a journalist in West Asia, how do you respond to those who say your journalism and your reporting on resistance groups, for example, or on the realities of what's happening in Lebanon and Palestine is essentially feeding into terrorism and what the Western world would categorize as supporting terror groups? What is your general response to that?
Well, I don't see that defending one's country from occupation as per any law is illegal. It starts by the international law say that when people are occupied, resistance is a right. The designation of terror groups is also a kind and the way and the paper that the Western hegemony uses on people to force them into certain choices in politics. I think for me here, the real terror in front of my eyes, that is right in front of my eyes today, is the baby killer. The baby killers are the Israeli apartheid occupation of Palestine. So the designation of terror does not come from, I don't want to talk about the American people because they don't have a say in this, but the American policy, they are the identification of terror. Everything that they have done in my region. They killed 1 million Iraqis, Sarah. If this is not terror, what is terror? You want me to believe your narrative of terror while you terrorize me? Who are you to tell me what terror is? It's you. It's your planes that are killing me. You're gonna make me scared. What else is there to lose? If you're killing me, you identify me as a terrorist because I exist in my land. So this is another thing. And number 3, denying the facts, don't change them. Denying the fact that hundreds of thousands of people, of indigenous native people in this land have this choice and want these groups, these political groups, don't change it. In Lebanon in particular, because I am in Lebanon and I report about Hezbollah in times like these. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is the biggest bloc in the parliament. As a journalist, Hezbollah MPs, Hezbollah press offices, because they are in the life and they are in the community and they are around 1/3 of our community because they are an idea and an ideology. It's not all combatants. This is why it's very, very dangerous when we say Hezbollah-Israeli war or Hamas-Israeli war. Their war is not with Hezbollah. Their war is with the people. Their war is with me. And I'm Christian. They can kill me just because I don't submit or concede to their hegemony, regardless of what my religion is or what I have done in my life. And then, the Israelis killed an American Palestinian journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh. The Americans say any word about that. They investigated. And then after the investigation told them it's a sniper that shot her down intentionally and killed her. What did they do? Why isn't all your mainstream media talking about Shireen Abu Akleh the same way they talk about Mahsa Amini, whom I don't know her face or her story or her identity or her career? Shireen Abu Akleh is a voice that was there in the collective memory of the indigenous people for years. She's a reporter. She was reporting. She got killed. Nobody even regarded her right and dignity. Her life is not equal to not 1%, 1/3, 10,000 of another girl called Mahsa Amini in Iran. It's your policy. It's your, it's a lot of nothing at that point. And when you are being massacred, Sarah, you don't want to prove anything to anyone. To anyone who thinks I'm supporting terrorist groups by reporting on the resistance, I would ask them, what would they do if they were me? They would pray for the safety of the planes that killed them, or the rockets that defend them from the planes. It is unrealistic to expect any Lebanese person, any Palestinian person, any indigenous person to hate the people that protect their children and to love and prefer the people that send them ammunitions and war planes. Our identification of terror in the Middle East and in West Asia, Sarah, is the American foreign policy. This is what terrorism is.
And it's really interesting because one of the most common ways actually that media here tends to completely shut down conversations and essentially nullify any argument to the contrary is by using these exact words like terrorism or terror groups. And essentially when people read that, the first thing they think of is, okay, if, America has designated a certain group as terrorist, then there's no conversation even to be had. And that actually speaks a lot to the ignorance of people here because it's never the question of where is this coming from or have we even taken the time to look at the realities of what's happening and why these groups are designated as terrorists. And we actually have a long history of many groups in American history itself being labeled as terrorists, and then decades later they're celebrated as people who championed human rights and peace. And so it's really an internal hypocrisy that people rarely question. But how does that viewpoint differ in Lebanon or in Palestine or other countries that are on the receiving end of actual U.S. terrorism in the region? How are they defining resistance, and how do you think that differs from that kind of Western view that is always viewed as superior?
I think the only reason that drove the people of this land to become that strong in deterring and resisting, the only people that made the Iranians become one of the best weapon manufacturing nations today under sanctions, the only reason why the Lebanese people now have formed a population resistance that is 100,000 fighters with ballistic missiles, the only reason is the supremacy. Because you cannot keep on oppressing people and expect them to submit, not if they don't think you're better than them. They don't know anything about our culture. They came as colonizers, and most of the time they came to a land full of culture. It's thousands of years old. Cities and culture and people and resistance and resilience. But speaking to a very important point that you said about the sanctions and designating as terrorists, 2 words, Nelson Mandela.
Exactly.
I mean, up until the last 30 minutes, the last half hour before he broke the apartheid system, he was in prison. They already they convicted him as an international pariah, and they had sanctions, right? Yep. He was a terrorist for them, and then he became the icon. And I promise you, Sarah, we will live and we will see how these people who are designating us and our resistance as terrorists will change their minds. Because you can only hide for a period of time. You cannot lie and believe your lies forever. You cannot keep on manufacturing lies and believe it forever. And there's one thing about, this point is very important. You said about when someone is designated as a terrorist group, we just take it without thinking as Americans. Absolutely. This is what you said, I quote you. And I think there's the culture of fast food and the culture of fast stances as well. Some people don't want to bother and think and make up their own minds about information. They like to take it fast food, Okay, so you would think on my behalf. So everything that's outside America, I believe my State Department, and everything that's inside America, I believe the Democrats or the Republicans or whoever they believe, or my church. I mean, what's Lebanon to a normal American citizen if it's not in the news and the headline manufactured by the mainstream media? It's such a small country on the other side of the world. Why would they learn about it unless they have a friend or they've tried the Lebanese cuisine? Exactly. But I mean, an average American has to really search and work hard to get to the bottom of the good information or the true information. But today, thanks to all this blood and sacrifice, the awareness is growing.
This is The Conscious Hour.